Oh, Parsec, why?
How you get so big in food of this kind?
Welcome! We're here to talk about this week's episode of Star Wars Resistance, Secrets, and Holograms. I keep wanting to say holocrons, but that would be an entirely different episode. This will be a spoiler review, so if you haven't watched the episode yet, I highly recommend watching that before this review. But with that, let's get right into it, because I have a ton I want to talk about. Usually, I like to talk about stuff instead of, like, just recapping, but to be honest, there's so much I kind of want to get to. This will probably end up being a recap, so I can talk about things as they come. But right from the get-go, we see Tora doing this crazy, like, Nintendo Wii sort of flight sim, which was really awesome. Flight sims within Star Wars have always been a part of anything, really, any kind of book where you've ever had piloting. But to see this kind of almost arcade style was really different and really cool. I liked that it had retro graphics, because I'm assuming in Star Wars, you know, you would have higher grade stuff at this point in time, so this is probably something that's like retro for effect rather than their actual, you know, what their games would really look like. I like the space slug coming down and like munching on the thing, just everything about it. And then of course, to jump ahead a little bit later on, she and Kaz eventually spend some time playing this game together. At one point I thought Kaz was just using excitement about these games to like convince Tora to let him get into the tower so he could spy on her father. But then it turned out that Kaz was nerding out over these games as much as you would think anybody would from, you know, space to play a space game. So I thought that was a really fun connection between the two of them. As somebody who likes to play video games myself, it was something that kind of spoke to me, and something I could definitely relate to, and it was fun seeing that between the two characters. Then we have Buggles. Buggles the fluff ball, I suppose. Buggles is exactly like a space pug, which is something that's just so ridiculously ugly, it's kind of cute. I gotta say, the moment where Buggles really kind of got to me was the hallway moment. I don't know why, but I haven't stopped laughing at that moment. I think it's just such a realistic moment for anyone who's ever had a pet. Like, so often in TV shows, somebody has a pet, and it's just like your loyal dog that's there for you when you're sad, or when, like, the house is on fire or something, and really half the time of having a pet is having the pet pee on something. And so I was really excited to see the realistic representation of pet ownership presented in this episode. But then we get into the bit where Tora has snuck out of the tower and kind of goes out into the Colossus in general, and this episode really shows what Resistance has been doing so well, where they put so much in one episode. You know, so often we're talking about how we wish a show of this length, 22 minutes, could be longer, and this time I was surprised it was only 22 minutes, and I don't mean that in a bad way, like it was dragging and I couldn't wait for it to be done. I mean, they put so much in 22 minutes, and that is a writing skill that's really difficult. We had the setup of Tora being, you know, that teenager that just doesn't get it, Dad. Why can't I leave the house? And we have that conflict of her wanting to go out, not wanting to be cooped up. She's an ace. You know, she fought pirates. It shouldn't be too much for her to go out and just go to the market. And that was brought up to a point where it almost felt like it was getting a little overdone until she got to the market, and she gets swarmed in the market. Because not only is she a celebrity in her own right, but she's a celebrity for being a racer, but also for being an ace, somebody who defends the platform. She's also a celebrity because she's the daughter of the head of the whole station. And so we had all these people who feel like they know her, because as any of us feel like we know a celebrity that we spend all this time seeing, then to have these people come up and be like, hey, you know, it's kind of like trying to tweet Pablo, yo, Pablo, you know, explain this to me. Hey, Matt, you know, can you answer this kind of strange question for me? Because of course he can't. That's exactly what Tora was going through. And I liked it because it set up her dad as being, okay, probably too controlling, making her stay in her room, but then there is an actual good reason. Now, he should have told her the actual good reason, and much like all parent-child relationships, it's complicated and it hurts sometimes, and sometimes no one's doing anything right. And so I kind of liked that really good representation of that relationship as well. And at the heart of this episode was really a bond between Kaz and Tora, and it's one I really like to see. It was one they kind of set up earlier. I liked seeing that grow, and it was kind of funny because, you know, Kaz is like, I'm just gonna walk down this hallway and do some spying, because Poe told me to do some spying, and then the Tora, like, literally falls into him, and then they're walking around, and she's just like, yeah, first order, first order, first order, first order, and Kaz is like, I'm the best spy in the world! And you get the idea that Tora is really, really sheltered. Like, she's obviously a highly intelligent person, so the only reason why she could just be flippantly throwing this around has got to be that she just doesn't understand what a big deal it is because her dad keeps her sheltered. But there's one line in the show that's got me kind of interested, which is Kaz says, you know, it's really hard for people our age. I was under the impression that Kaz was significantly older than Tora is. There's a couple different things that could be going on here. Maybe relative age is something kind of different, right? You know, maybe he could be in his early 20s and she could be kind of a mid-range teenager, but that could still be significantly different than maybe people who are in their 30s or 40s, so relatively they are still closer in age. It could be that Tora is acting young for her age, which would go along with her kind of sheltered way of life, which would kind of make sense. It could also be that Kaz is younger than we thought. A lot of us were basing his age on the fact that he had this place of rank within the New Republic military, but in the pilot episode, Kaz's dad does claim to be the one that got Kaz where he is, and maybe part of that is he got Kaz where he is at a very early age. So maybe Kaz is younger than his standing in the New Republic would have suggested. In the middle of all of this, we get a lot of throwback to past episodes. Tora takes Kaz to the Aces Lounge, only it's an even nicer, even fancier Aces Lounge. And Kaz even comments on, wow, you guys have an even better one. And we get hype back, saying some lines, and that kind of is a throwback to the last time Kaz was in the tower. But more so than that, we see Jace. So this is 2 episodes in a row that have referenced Fuel for the Fire. Elijah Wood is back playing Kaz's rival, only this time he's a kind of waiter janitor of sorts, and he's out to get revenge on Kaz because he's currently trying to save up money to get a racer to replace the one that Kaz destroyed. Again, I'm really happy that they brought him back so fast. I feel like this is the thing that Clone Wars and Rebels kind of did, where they would set all this stuff up in the first season that really felt like filler at the time, but then became really relevant seasons later. Resistance is like, no, we're going to set all this stuff up and then address it in the same season instead of making you wait so long that you forget who the characters are, which happened to me a lot in Rebels, if I'm being completely honest. And on top of that plotline, we have Captain Doza and Pyre, and they're trying to strike up that deal with the First Order and the pirates and all this other stuff that we've been hearing about in past episodes. So basically, Pyre wants to bring in the First Order to defend the platform from pirates. Of course, we know the pirates are ultimately working for the First Order, and this is a scam. Doza is like, alright, if we do this, how many are going to be here? How long are you guys going to be here? How long are you guys going to be here? After you stop the pirates, you know, Pyre's giving him these really weak lines about it's vague and it's hard to tell how long things are going to take. And Doza knows. Doza knows that if he signs over this agreement, that the First Order just takes the platform. So he's trying to decide, you know, does he do this or not? And it's a conflict he has. Now, while all this is going on, Kaz sees this going on with Tora, and Kaz knows that he has to get in there and get a copy of this agreement. He eventually gets away from Tora, sneaks into the office, but Jace catches him do it. Jace tries to set this up as his grand scheme of revenge against Kaz, and the story moves forward. Kaz hides in Captain Doza's office, and ultimately is kind of rescued by Tora. I'm presuming that what happened is BB-8 knows that Kaz is in trouble and goes to get Tora, and it's interesting to me that Tora is helping Kaz. So she clearly wants to form this friendship with him, even at the expense of him kind of doing nefarious stuff against her dad. She does appear to be close with her dad. She uses that relationship at multiple times in the episode, but she doesn't seem to do it at the expense of not wanting to have a relationship with her dad. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic there. Of course, as they try to get away, they end up in a trash incinerator because a trash compactor isn't enough, and this ends up being kind of the action sequence for an episode that actually hadn't had an action sequence in the entire time, which is unusual for the show, which usually has several. To be fair, I didn't necessarily miss the action sequence. I was so caught up in the story that was going on anyway, but it was good that they kind of did something fun at the end, and again, anytime the show does something action-y, the animation really comes alive in those moments, and I was really impressed. But you may have noticed I skipped over a detail from earlier in the episode, and that's because I kind of wanted to end on that note, and that is while Kaz is hiding in Doza's office, he finds an Imperial uniform. This uniform is hidden in a closet that can only be opened with a secret button. It's clearly something that Doza wants to keep hidden away, and it's something that's convinced Kaz that Doza really is the worst news on this station. I still think Captain Doza is a red herring, and I am more convinced about it now than ever. See, Doza is hiding away his Imperial uniform. Any kind of Imperial loyalist that we've seen in canon so far has often been proud of their Imperial affiliation. It also doesn't make sense that he would be reticent to join up with the First Order if he was a proud Imperial. I mean, it could be disdain for kind of the Diet Empire that was coming here to talk to him, but he doesn't talk to the First Order with disdain. He talks to the First Order with distrust, and I think that's an important distinction. I think what's going to happen here is Kaz is going to accuse her dad to Poe and kind of shame her dad and maybe even get him kicked out of his position, but he's ultimately going to be an innocent man. I mean, maybe not innocent of being in the Empire, but innocent of wanting to help the First Order now. And we're going to go into speculation zone, so this is pure speculation zone. I brought up Kaz's dad earlier. If I were writing the show and I wanted to rip people's hearts out, this is what I would do. I would make the person that ends up being kind of nasty and evil Kaz's dad, so that it became a thing where Kaz accuses Tora's dad, who's innocent, and he doesn't know it at the time, and you have all this drama between Kaz and Tora, and Kaz trying to help Tora through having an evil dad, and then it turns out she doesn't, he does, and it gets reversed on him, and anything he may have said kind of gets thrown back at him. But if that's not what happens, it's not what happens. The writers have been doing a stellar job so far. I'm sure they have something stellar in for us down the road. Whatever happens, happens, and I'm excited to see it when we get there. But like I said, I had so much to say about this episode. I don't even know if I hit everything. I'd love to know what your guys' thoughts are. Please leave a comment letting me know what you think. Follow us at Port Haven Forums on Twitter and visit port-haven.com. And this is exciting, you may have seen over the weekend, we launched a Discord server. And if you click on the link in the description, you can join that Discord server too and talk to me and Professor Django and other people you're used to seeing in the comment section there, and have a great time kind of getting to know each other, and I'd love to see you guys there. Until next time, keep it real and fly casual.
Cooking candy fun!